Wait. Okay, we're good. Volume is decent. Twitch. We got the Twitch on the Twitch. Now checking. Wow, finally my video comes up. Okay, sorry guys, I'm just checking my video is good and then I'll get straight into it. Oh, my freaking headphones are still connected to my phone. Okay, sorry guys, I'm just checking. Okay, we're good. Good. My video is good, and then I'll get straight into it. Anyways, my phone takes a while, so I'm just gonna let it take its time and do its thing. So I thought I'd do a little quick video for this one because it's getting a little bit late. Just a tad. But as you can tell from this title, it's a little bit of a no-brainer. I don't know, for me at least, I don't know. Maybe for some it might not be a no-brainer. This inspiration for this video obviously came from life, right? Life experiences. So overall, from ever since I was a little kid all the way up until this point, I've had constant experiences that keep showing me that life experience, or life and experience, you know, both and either, have been the best teacher, the best lessons for me, and that have taught me the actual most, more than any class that I've ever been in. And this is not to discredit, first of all, I want to do a disclaimer, you know, this is not to discredit any class and to say that you do not learn things from classes, right? My point is that even if you were to learn something from that class, it doesn't take until you actually go out into the world, experience life, and are able to actually apply your lesson. You know, it's like people say, like I've said this many times in my videos before, you know, knowledge is one thing, but wisdom is being able to actually apply said knowledge. So you can know something all you want. I've met so many people that know a lot of different things and they can give a lot of good advice, they can give a lot of this and they can give a lot of that. But when it comes down to the wisdom, actually applying that knowledge and putting it into practice, that's a whole different story. So what is knowledge worth if you can't use your wisdom to utilize that knowledge? You know, because you might be very, very knowledgeable, but someone else who's more wise will come along and utilize all your knowledge and then take it even further than you can be able to take it, just due to the fact that they're more wise. So they might not have as much knowledge as you, you know, they might not know as many different avenues and things as you, but just because they're wise, they're able to utilize more, they're able to get more substance out of that knowledge, right? And this is the difference between someone who maybe is a book smart type of person and someone who is a life smart type of person. And I always thought like maybe I was a little bit book smart, but honestly my life has shown me more time and time again, I'm definitely more of a life smart kind of person. And when it comes to even school, going back to school, this is one of the first early examples of this that I remember from school. When I was in school, I would learn a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, I could say a whole bunch of stuff. I could read a whole bunch of things right from the book and tell you, yes, this is this and this is that, and this math equation equals this. This word is spelled like this. You know, I could say all those different things, right? But when it came to actual real world experience, when I was on holidays, this is what I noticed for myself even at a young age without actually putting all the pieces together, right? When I was on holidays, I used to find myself actually learning way more than I actually learned in school. And I might have used a lot of the things that I learned in school to help me to learn that, but I did not learn it to the extent that I learned it in school. The school almost felt limited in terms of my learning capabilities a lot of the time. Most that I've probably say that I learned was when I actually experienced certain things in school. But as a whole, a lot of the time in school, you're not actually experiencing things. You're in class a lot of the time, and this is not to diss school. You know, people want to stay in school. If people want to do school, you do you. I do not encourage anyone to stop doing something if they feel like that is their energy and that resonates with their state of being, right? For me, school wasn't really for me. For someone else, school may be for them, you know, more in alignment with their path and what they want out of life, right? So for me, I didn't find that was the case. If anything, I found myself during the holidays, found myself so in depth when it came to the things that I actually learned from my holiday experiences. So I would actually be able to gain more wisdom, gain more knowledge, learn more about myself and about the world as well as about others, you know, the whole shebang, the whole freaking package basically. So that's what I'm talking about when I say life and experience is probably the most that I've learned more than any class. You know, I might have learned a whole bunch of ways to kind of logically make up or put together the different experiences that I had outside of school. But in terms of my actual experiences and being outside of school and in the world experiencing, right? That's when I actually learned the most. Don't mind my cat, guys. He's scratching the freaking couch. He knows he's not allowed to do that, but I do not have the mind to freaking stop him right now. So when it comes to all of that, when it comes to those experiences, this is how I'm able to kind of compare and contrast between my own life experience and the experiences or the lessons that I go through, even when I go online, for example. Because I know nowadays, you know, a lot of people will come online to learn a lot of things. And this is not to say that you're not going to learn anything from going online, right? But being mindful of the fact that even if you do go online and you learn a whole bunch of stuff, like let's say you watch a whole bunch of my videos, you know, you watch a whole bunch of my videos and you like learn a lot of different insights and different things, I'm willing to bet it's not until you actually start to experience and go through life that's when the actual real learning takes place. So yeah, I might have triggered that mentality or that logical aspect of knowing what it is, but you actually learning and gaining the wisdom and experience from that and being able to apply that and being able to know it deeply and truly for yourself, that is what comes with the life experience. So, you know, I can only so much as trigger you to go on your own learning journey and learn in your own way, but utilizing the same kind of knowledge and the same kind of, you know-how, right? So it's different when it comes to that kind of stuff. It's very interesting because I know I found myself back in the day feeling like I had to watch this many videos. I had to watch so many different videos, especially when I was really young. So I need to watch all these different videos. I need to watch all these different things, right? And that's what will make me more aware and more awakened and knowledgeable as a spirit, right? And then I find myself not actually making much progress. It wasn't until like I actually took time off of all that and actually went out into the world, experienced things, put things to the test, you know, put myself to the test. The universe put me to the test, you know, just going through cycles that I knew that I needed to clear, some that I didn't know, you know, just being able to see all of those play out. That's where I found myself gaining the most wisdom and actually being able to extract the most substance out of each lesson and out of each experience. So that's where I'm like, okay. But again, it's going back to that whole balance scale too. You know, everything's a balancing kind of thing. So yeah, like I said, you know, you still benefit and you still gain the logical, knowledgeable side of how to kind of piece things together when it comes to, you know, maybe you're listening to someone like me, or maybe you're reading a book and you're learning about like different herbs, right? But it's not until you actually go out and experience, like for example, let's say you're learning about herbs. You can read all you want about all those different herbs, but when you go out and experience and you're out into the garden, then you start to notice, oh, like you start to notice, it's like, how do I say this? Like in a book, and the book will say, you know, all the herbs that are like this, they are the herbs that like to develop, or they like this kind of soil. Let's say, like, just a weird example, like these herbs, they like this kind of soil because this kind of soil is well draining, right? And this herb doesn't like to have too much compacted soil, right? It's all good and true. It's all good to know that, you know. But when you actually go out into the garden and you start to plant these different herbs, you start to notice the root system. You start to notice how the roots grow. How some, for example, this herb here, the roots are more brittle and they break easily, right? This herb over here, the roots are more sturdy. So you know the ones that are more sturdy, they're more likely to be able to handle soil that's compacted. Whereas the roots that are more brittle, they probably would prefer soil that's a lot more loose, you know, because they want to be able to kind of move around freely and not have to push through the soil, right? So the only way that I would be able to know that is if I actually went out into the garden. You know, I could probably learn that from a book, but to understand and know that deeply, that's just one small example. It's not really the best example, but you get what I'm saying when I'm saying that, you know, you get the idea. It's like a deep, intrinsic, more like deeper version of knowing, where you're able to know the ins and outs of a situation, and you're able to know why a person in that book would even come to the conclusion of telling you something like that, you know, of saying, oh, you know, this, like, let's say this crystal goes with this thing, or this crystal goes with that thing. Facts. And for real, straight facts. I love that example as well. I'm glad you picked up on that. So yeah, like, it's really just like a different level of knowing that you can only, if you know, it's like that kind of shit, you know, like, so. And that's just gardening. Like, depends on what area of life you're actually in, you know. Everyone's going to have their own aspect of this. Everyone's going to have their own way of knowing this. But I'm feeling like I'm speaking in the best general sense, where a wider range of people can actually get what I'm saying, you know. And that's what I try to do the best I can in my videos, you know. But even that, you know, that obviously comes with practice. You know, I don't get up here and just start talking and then based on, oh, you know, I've watched 1,000 videos and I've learned this and this and this and this, all of that stuff about how to speak in a good way. Like, I learned how to speak like this because I literally spent fucking ages speaking. Like, you know, I'll be talking a lot if I'm speaking like this, you know, in this video. You know that I say a lot of things, a lot of different stuff when it comes to just the way that I'm able to kind of articulate and put things into perspective and speak things. And even other people, you can also see that, you know, like, for example, I know readers, like, you can tell the difference between a reader who just reads, you know. There's a difference between one reader who just reads and they just read the cards and they're just like, yes, so this card is, you know, it's a very surface level kind of aspect to it. And then, you know, those readers who actually experience and truly live that shit. So they're able to kind of explain the ins and the outs of the reading, you know, and they're able to go that extra layer of depth and that extra layer of wisdom to it, you know what I mean? Like even myself found myself like that, like probably a year ago, maybe, like I don't know how long, but time frames are a little bit funny for me, you know. Sometimes a year feels like 2, sometimes a year feels like half of 1. So I don't really, like when it comes to, like if you were to ask me, oh, how long ago was that, I can give you a general, you know, I can give you a rough estimate. But anyways, when it comes to my readings, I used to find myself like that, one of those readers where I'll just be like, okay, so this card, it means this, and this card, it means that, and this is the Taurus card, and you know, that's all well and true. Like it's not to diss anyone out there who's like that, you know. It takes you to go through that, again, that experience in order to get to that level of depth. But now I've found myself on the other side of that when now, because I've also experienced it and I also kind of live it, and I see my life through the lens of like symbolism, and I see more of a deeper layer, as opposed to, you know, a lot of people, they will just look at things, maybe you just see like an object, right? But I'm looking at certain objects and I'm like, okay, what's like the energy, the representation of what that object actually means, you know, on a symbolic level, you know? And then also, what does that, you know, specifically mean to me, you know? Because also, like, for example, stages of understanding, growth and development takes time. For real, it takes a lot of time for, you know, depending, you know, I won't say a lot, but definitely takes time. It doesn't take, you know, minutes, seconds, like that's like chump time. And especially if you're in a rush mindset, you know, a lot of people will get discouraged by that, especially earth signs know this all, like well and true, you know, like on a deep level, earth signs know how things take time. Because if you're an earth sign, that's like one of the biggest things that I feel like earth signs have to go through when it comes to having that kind of rigid or more slow and stable kind of energy, you know, especially Tauruses and Capricorns maybe, and Virgos too will be able to know this, but Virgos are more mutable. They got that more like shifting, changing kind of energy. But yeah, as earth signs, like I feel like, you know, I can only speak from experience, but, and also just other earth signs I've seen in life, and how they know this shit on a deep level, you know, fire signs, water signs, even air signs, you know, I know a lot of them, you know, and everyone can learn this obviously on a certain level, but I just notice a lot of fire signs, water signs and air signs, they're more like, hey, like let's just get it done. You know what I mean? And if it's not getting done, I don't know if I want to spend my time actually doing this, you know? And so I find a lot of times they can get discouraged earlier on than per se an earth sign, you know, because an earth sign is like, bish, I want to get this done. I want to make sure this is freaking solidified. I want to make sure that this is actually substantial, stable, all that earth quality type shit, you know? But yeah, found myself nowadays, like, because I'm really kind of seeing things through that lens, I'm just able to, okay, yeah, I see things from a deeper level, and now I can pull like one card, for example. I remember I did this video the other day on Facebook. I posted this video. I literally pulled one card and I sat there for about half an hour going through the ins and outs of that card, and I explained it on such a like deep level, and like it wasn't even just me explaining like the fact that it was a Hierophant, you know, the fact that it was Taurus. I was also explaining like the layers of the Taurus energy, you know, how the Taurus energy is all about like the values, and then how that even ties into other aspects, you know, bringing in kind of other aspects from other areas that might not even be necessarily fully related to Taurus, you know. And so I'm able to see like that, yeah, that extra understanding, that extra like deeper layer, that Scorpio, you know, 8th house type energy. It's really, really cool to see that growth and that expansion. But, you know, if you don't take that time and you don't actually put yourself out there in the world, you won't be able to see a lot of that until you actually do. But either way, eventually you're going to have to go through that in general, because it's not like, you know, I feel like a lot of people might think as well, seeing other people in their external, like, oh, this person only ever does this, or this person might only ever do that. And so you feel like maybe, oh, they might not be able to grow because they don't actually take the time to gain that wisdom and that experience. But, you know, they're going to get there one way or another. It doesn't matter what way we're going, you're always going to find yourself, your spirit kind of leading you back to that balanced scale. So if you're on one extreme, you're going to find yourself going back to the other extreme. And so either way, or, you know, whether you'll find it consciously trying to balance yourself, which I prefer to do because I don't have to be so chaotic. You know, I'm able to consciously be like, okay, going too much far into this area, okay, I need to jump into that area, and vice versa. You know, otherwise you're just going to jump into that area unconsciously or subconsciously. Spirit's just going to be like, bitch, I'm sick of this shit. And that's why people get tired of so many things in their life, because it's like they just went too extreme, they went too hard in that energy. Like I used to do that bad with the trains, public transport, and traveling, like getting out there. I found myself like always wanting to experience, always wanting to put myself out there. And now I'm more in a stage of my life where my spirit's like, no, I want to seclude, I want to jump in, you know, go within. And then I'm like, okay, I see. Now I need to be more in that balanced scale where I'm like, don't go too far into that area, don't go far too into that area. You know, bringing the opposites, like far too far, like that little like that little thing there. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of this whole video. I just wanted to talk about that. Main thing is because like I really just had this profound experience today where I was out in the city, right? I found myself worrying, okay, should I be doing something more productive with my time? Should I be like striving more for my dreams and my goals and my passions, or should I just be sitting here and doing what I'm doing? Because I'm just like, oh, I don't know, this feels like low key, like, because I'm very in that productive mindset, right? I found myself, okay, it's like, you know what, if I'm stressed, if I'm worried, let me just pull a card, let me just see. My card's just like, bitch, chill the fuck out. So I was like, okay, I need to get out of this state of being. I need to enjoy, be in the present moment. I need to let go, be free, you know, all that kind of energy. And you know what was funny as fuck? As I let go, so many things started to come to me, all different ideas. And it was like, now I felt like I was being more productive, even though I was relaxing. It was very, very weird. So I found myself like, I was with my friend in the city, or, you know, more like a close family rather than a friend, because I don't really like that word friend. It just has an end to it, you know. We like to have beginnings and continuations and transformations and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I found myself, next thing I know, we were like, I was showing my friend about how, or, you know, the person that I was with, I was showing them all about how to kind of tune into different energies, and like in a real simple type of way. It was crazy. So I was like, we were doing like little psychic exercises, you know, how to like read like intuitively. And then we were doing like healing exercise, like how to heal intuitively and naturally, like just using your own kind of thoughts and feelings and just visualization, all that kind of good shit. And even some not visualization, because I don't really necessarily think that, you know, you need to do things in one specific way. So I was just trying to show like all that kind of stuff to the person I was with. And as we were doing that healing, mind you, it freaking worked amazingly. It was just the best, and it took freaking 5 seconds. It was so cool. It just all flowed. And then next minute, this guy's like looking at me and he goes like, hey. And then I'm like, okay, let me just say hey, because I feel like I always like to acknowledge someone if they acknowledge me. So I'm like, hey. And he's like, I really like the feathers. I really like your outfit. I really like what you guys are both wearing. And I was like, oh, cool, thank you. I appreciate that, you know. And then we started having a conversation. Next thing you know, comes and sits down, starts talking about life, coolest guy, like freaking had such a good convo, and started talking about a whole bunch of stuff. Turns out, you know, as life is, you know, shows you people who mirror you. So, you know, if you're in a negative space, you're going to get people who are negative. You know, I started talking to him and I was like, I already know, because I know how my mentality is. I already know he's going to be that kind of person who's very similar to me. He's going to mirror my shit, like, massively. So he ended up being into music like me. You know, we ended up showing like each of our beats. Like I showed him some of the beats that I produce. He showed me the beats that he produced and the songs that he produced. And I was, even the other person that I was with, we all just started showing each other a whole bunch of beats. It was freaking awesome. Like, it was a really cool experience. And I even like felt like I learned a whole bunch from him. Just him like being so free. Like he basically is just traveling, like doesn't even pay for accommodation. He was like going out and he's like sleeping in nature. Like he just grabs a hammock, puts it by the trees, and just camps out in nature. Doesn't even have like a camping site. He's like living off his backpack. I was like, bro, that is so awesome. I just love that for him, you know, because like I know how freeing that would feel. I know how freeing that would be, without going too much, because I don't want to give his whole life away. You know, it's not exactly my life to share. I just thought it was something really cool to share. You know, it was a bit of an inspiration for me and made me really want to like just talk about something. Like I was just like, I just need to talk about experiences, man. Like, because that shit was like definitely an experience that showed me a lot about myself and took me on that deeper knowing of like, okay, you know, and showing me the synchronicities too with my life of like, okay, you know, things actually play out the right way as long as you just kind of are in the right mentality, right? And you know, because if you're in the wrong mentality and you go with the flow, you know, your flow is not going to be great. But if you're in the right mentality and you go with the flow, that's a different story. You know, so it's all about, you know, finding that balanced scale, finding that medium, that healthy medium between, because there's a difference between going with the flow and just allowing your life to just take the reins for you and not taking control of your life. So that's where I worry for myself sometimes. I'm like, am I overly going with the flow? Let me push more, you know, let me, you know, activate, Holy Spirit, activate. That's what that reminded me of, bro. Don't know if anyone see that video, but I don't even know what that video is from, but I just remember that like came to my head when I said activate. Holy Spirit, activate. But yeah, anyways, that was a little cool experience, a little anecdotal experience that I had today. Met this really cool guy, and hopefully, you know, something comes out of that. And if not, that's cool too. But I also had another experience like that too. I can't remember what the video was called, but I had a lot of these experiences where when I'm in the city, I notice myself meeting other like-minded people just randomly, just out of the blue. But I wouldn't know that unless I actually put myself out there into a space, you know, especially even like I'm not much of a city person, you know, but because I know as well to get myself out there, to actually expand myself, you know, instead of my cats, they're like having a stare off. To actually expand myself, you know, instead of actually staying in your house in that little freaking four walls cage type shit. I'm like, okay, you know, and then when I do the universe, all possibilities, you know, whatever you want to call it, God, whoever, whatever, I could care less. I'd rather call it all possibilities, right? But, you know, I could care less what you want to call it. That's up to you in your life. You know, it will show you the true shit, the true, whatever's going on in your mind. And that's where a lot of people, you know, may struggle. They might not want to put themselves out there, go out into the world too much, because, you know, your internal world's not right. So once you get that internal shit right, everything will flow in a better aspect. And you might end up finding out that you actually like the things that you didn't really like before, you know. And you might have thought, oh, I don't really like this. I'm more of a country girl rather than a city girl. But if you're in the right mentality, you might find, oh, I actually like the city a lot more than I thought, you know. And that's just like low-key me, you know. But anyways, I'll see you guys for the next video. Hope this helps someone, and if it didn't, that's cool too, you know, because at the end of the day, everything's cool, you know. Everything's cool, like the bull, Taurus, Tauridi, Taurus, Taurat, whatever the heck. I don't know why I'm speaking Arabic. I look like an Arab, so might as well embrace it. Peace. Hiya.